Good evening and welcome. This is News First Primetime News coming to live and direct from our News First studios here in Colombo. I am Shaheen Jurangpati.
A very good evening. I'm Mahina Bongzo. Here's a look at your headlines for tonight.
Former Mayor of Kotte, Janaka Ranawaka lodges complaint with the Bribery Commission against Minister Malik Samaravikrama. Auditor General says the national debt cannot be calculated accurately. Election propaganda activities to conclude by midnight tonight.
Auditor General Gamini Vijay Singha says he cannot provide a correct number for the national debt. Speaking at the launch of the annual audit report, Vijay Singha said the delay in passing the audit bill as per the 19th Amendment to the Constitution has paved the way for many issues.
The department is like a person whose limbs were bound and thrown into the sea. We are facing a situation where we cannot do anything. If someone asks me the exact figure for national debt, all I can say is, go ask that from God. The management of public debt over the past decade was a complete mess. The main reason for this is the excessive loans obtained, exceeding the limits that have been imposed by the law, and writing off these debt from the books and moving the debt into different places. We have termed the former Secretary of the Finance Minister as the person who assassinated the economy. Certain key incidents had taken place that led to the violation of financial discipline in the country. As per the records of the Finance Minister, as of the 31st of December 2016, the debt was recorded at 8.9 trillion rupees. According to the Central Bank, the deficit for 2017 is 10.3 trillion rupees. Financial statements for 31st December 2016 record the value of assets at 1.1 trillion rupees. This is what we see as the most serious issue. By 2004-2005, the total debt has been allocated for investment purposes. However, as debt mounted, the investments have dropped. The former chief accountant, as a measure to overcome this, decided to write off some debt. For example, the debt of the Norochale power plant was moved to the Ceylon Electricity Board. The same goes for the loans obtained for the Hambantota port, the Suriyava grounds, Mattala. The loans are in the aviation department. The RDA accounts are filled with the debt obtained for the construction of roads. The figure stands at 136 billion rupees. There is 37 billion rupees with the pension fund. Last year, the bank has paid 1.4 billion as interest. These loans have not been included in the books. The individual debt as of the 31st of December 2016 was 417,000 rupees. When it comes to the purchase of treasury bonds from the central bank, the debt is calculated based on the face value of the security. At the bond scam, the single security was sold at 70 rupees when the face value was 100 rupees. However, the Finance Ministry only recorded it as 70 rupees. Therefore, the gap between the two, that is the Finance Ministry and the Central Bank, gradually increased. The debt became a total mess. If we start to unravel this mess now, we will be able to solve it in a decade. There was no approval for the chairman of the Land Reclamation and Development Corporation with regard to the construction of the D.A. Rajapaksa Memorial. There was a 15 billion rupee loss when importing rice. Cabinet only approved the importation of 5,000 metric tons of rice. However, they imported 175,000 metric tons of rice. We have filed reports and nothing has happened. Take a look at the elephant issue of the Department of Wildlife Conservation. If we take a look at the birth and mortality rates of the elephants, by 2048, elephants will be extinct in Sri Lanka. Yet, the Department of Wildlife is doing nothing about it. When it comes to the expenses of public funds, the chief accounting officers must always remember they are using the money of the general public. But some organizations operate as if they are handling the equipment in their kitchen. The chief accounting officer must stand firm in his duty. The main issue is these officers are not standing firm. The former governor of the central bank says he committed an act because the Prime Minister said so. The chief accounting officer is always accountable. He must accept responsibility. It does not matter who did the wrong thing. Take a look at the silk cloth incident. Just because Lalit Veeratunga's president said to do it, there is no immunity. Article 52.2 of the Constitution says the Secretary to the Ministry shall, subject to the direction and control of his Minister, exercise supervision over the departments of government or other institutions in the charge of his Minister. However, they have misinterpreted this article. It does not say to commit every wrongful act decided by the Minister.
A very good evening to the newsroom here. Now, we heard the statements made by the Auditor General Gamini Vijay Singha about national debt and the calculations, and he himself says there's no way of calculating the exact figure of national debt. and he gave some reasons for that as well. Now, behind us on these two screens are the figure of the recorded national debt. Now, we've put it on two screens because we want you to understand the magnitude of the debt that we have incurred because of the loans that successive governments and institutions, public institutions, have obtained from locally and international lenders. With me is Faraz Shaukat Ali. Faraz, this is not 100 rupees, but
that's right.
I would like you to take the lead in deriving this number for the people.
Absolutely. Thank you, Zulfik. It's, as you say, it's not 100 rupees, it's not 1,000 rupees, it's not 100,000 rupees, it's not 100 million rupees, it's not 100 billion rupees, but in fact it is 10 trillion rupees. And I think I'll have to move completely away from here so that we'll be able to show you what it is. And there we are. It's I don't know if you can really see it here, but it's 10 trillion rupees, which is an absolutely astronomical figure.
For us, 10 trillion rupees is the recorded national debt, and while the Auditor General himself says there's no way of actually ascertaining the magnitude of national debt, it is now clear before the public eye that there are only a handful of public officers who are actually performing their duties to the letter.
That's right.
And even those handful of officers, some of them are not even being allowed to exercise their duties properly.
Yes, it all comes about because of this politicization of the public service, and where the professionals are simply not being allowed or permitted to carry on doing their duties. And that is, it's all back to the same thing, Zulfik, that we've been rabbiting on for a long time, and that is this departure from process. The ministers cannot and should not and shouldn't be allowed to interfere with the due process. That is in the hands of the public servants who are professionals.
For us, we've seen time and time again statements being made on the media that loans are being obtained to furnish existing loans and or furnish the interest rates.
Yes, unfortunately there is a serious attempt to mislead the public by saying that these are investments, when in fact they are loans, and loans require repaying at some point in time. And it is, of course, the people who are repaying these loans. And the generations to come are saddled with this debt.
For us, speaking of misleading, it comes to my mind a small incident. That's the Hambantota airport, whereas it came in as an investment. That was what was said mainly, an investment, but later on it was exposed that it is actually a loan.
Indeed.
And now, recently, a minister himself said before the media that in one calendar year, the revenue generated by this airport in down south was only 16,000 rupees.
With all due respect to let's say the taxis of this world, any taxi person who's operating a taxi will be earning far more than 16,000 rupees a month, and that is they'll be earning at least 30,000 to 40,000 rupees.
For us, this all boils down to mismanagement of public funds or no proper management system of public funds.
A complete departure from process, and that is the key here. The crux of the problem is that when one departs from established procedure, then it opens the doors of corruption wide and very wide indeed.
Indeed, for us now, accepted reports have made it clear that every single citizen of this country, a child and even an adult, are in debt of 417,000 rupees. So just imagine, you may not have obtained a bank loan or you may have not obtained a loan from where you work, but still you are in debt of 417,000 rupees.
And that is a huge figure for anyone to be saddled with.
That's right, for us. So the question comes to anyone's mind is that are we going to be in debt of 417,000 rupees throughout our lifetime? Now, for us, speaking of due procedure, you might recall back in the day when Dudley Senanaika.
That's right. I will have to take this one
Indeed.
on because you were probably not at the design stage. But the Galloway project was very much a real project, and during that during the period of Dudley Senanaika's time, his brother, I believe it was Robert Senanayake, was the chairman of a company, and there were accusations that that company was being favoured because of the connection to Mr. Dudley Senanayake. And of course, Mr. Senanayake, Dudley Senanayake, put it before the Public Accounts Committee, or what we would now call COPE, I suppose, and appointed a well-known economist, Dr. N.M. Pereira, to investigate it. Dudley Senanayake, in fact, paved the way for an independent system of governance.
So it did not matter if his brother was involved, but there should have been an independent inquiry.
Absolutely. There was no attempt whatsoever. And the Honourable, and it's a great pleasure and an honour to be able to refer to Dudley Senanayake as the Right Honourable Dudley Senanayake, because he acted and he welcomed the opportunity to investigate this matter fully, and it was investigated fully.
And for us, sadly, the rulers of this country have been enjoying the luxuries at the expense of public debt, and they will obviously enjoy it, and then the people will have to be in debt for the rest of their lives.
And going back in time, sorry Zulfik, but going back in time as well, again, we have to go back in time, because that is when there was good governance, which is far missing today. And I'm referring to the period of the Bandaranaike era. 2 ministers were forced to resign, and actually Mr. Bandaranaike they were not just resigning as ministers, they resigned from their parliamentary lives, from their political life. And that is the way it was those days.
The Auditor General himself commented on the bond scam on his press conference today. Now, this morning you were speaking to President's Counsel Hemantha Kulasuriya, who had some interesting thoughts on the bond scam. Let's have a listen to those thoughts.
Absolutely.
Yeah, when there was overwhelming evidence, when the whole world every day on the television, on the news media, on everywhere, was talking about the biggest robbery that ever took place in Southeast Asia, what did the Prime Minister do? So isn't he culpable of trying to protect his own friend?
Can I say that I can give you the answer as to what the Prime Minister did during this time, as you say. That his action is notable for the one thing, inaction.
Yeah, well, for us, I can understand if he did not take action, he would say, oh, of course, I waited till the Commission report was out. These are all the evidence that have been led, and I cannot come to conclusion. I, on the other hand, gave it to the Attorney General, and the Attorney General has not done anything. But all that may be true, but at least he should have made a statement and said that condemn this whole thing if he was out of this, if he was free of this whole maneuver. And then what happened when Arjuna Mahendran wanted to go abroad, when there was a case pending, when there was inquiry pending against him, he went abroad, and the Prime Minister assured this country that he would come back. I believe that is what prompted the Prime Minister not to take action. Now, isn't this, we compare this to the Singaporean government.
Isn't this the actions of a mastermind?
Yeah, no, this is what happens in normal criminal, in any criminal case. The accused get together and they protect each other. One gang protects the other gang.
Those are the thoughts of President's Counsel Hemantha Kulasuriya. News First continues after this short commercial break.
Welcome back to the news. Minister Susil Premajayantha addressed a media briefing held at the Sri Lanka Freedom Party headquarters today.
Ravi Karunanayaka's statement revealed to us that there are people like King Kakille in the UNP. He says that the Marapana decisions are akin to that of King Kakille and that they have been made targeting him. He has been removed from his responsibilities until the investigations conclude. He says that when the bond scam took place, both the central bank and other commercial banks were not under him. The central bank was under the Prime Minister. The commercial banks were under Kabir Hashim. Does it belong to people from our party? The ministers were under the UNP leader and the General Secretary. What is Ravi Karunanayaka trying to say? He is saying that although they are trying to trap him, I am not the one who is responsible. The central bank is under the Prime Minister, so ask him. He can't say this straight, so he's saying it's not me. He's like a kid. He cannot complete his sentence.
UPFA Colombo mayoral candidate made a revelation today.
In page 305 of the bond report, it is said the mayoral candidate's son is involved in the bond scam. We would like to play an audio recording of a conversation that took place between the CEO of Perpetual Treasuries, Kasun Palisena, and Nuwan Salgadu.
අපි තමුනාසලට මිනිත්තු දෙකකට ආණ්ඩ කියලා කියනවා. ඔන් කරන්න ඕක.
Hello. Yes, sir. මේ මගේ අර කෝප් එකේ මම දුන්න ෂිප්මන්ට් එක අමතන අර්ජුන් ගාව තියෙනවා කවුද මේ රෝසගේ දුවද මේ පුතාද මොකද මේ දුන්න අර්ජුන් ෆුල් ස්ටේට්මන්ට් එක අනේ උඹ ඒක පොඩ්ඩක් හොයලා බලලා ඒක අතර ගන්නවද මම ගානට ගන්න ඕනේ ෆයිනල් ඔක්කොට කතා කරනවද ලොක්ක ගාව කීයද උඹට කවුද මේ කවුද මමට පොඩ්ඩක් දුන්න රෝසිගේ පුතා අන්න ඌට සොල්ඩ දෙන්නද මොකද කියලා කිව්වා ආයෙත් ෆයිනල් ඔක්කොට කතා කරනවද ඔව් රෝසිගේ පුතා ගාව ඕක නම්බර් ඉල්ලගෙනවා කියලා
This is a conversation recorded in page 305 in the report. CEO of Perpetual Treasuries, Kasun Palisena, who is currently in prison, is one person who was involved in this transaction. He is having this conversation with the chief dealer, Nuwan Salgadu. He had gone to court and given evidence, and when he realized it does not favor him, he speaks to Nuwan Salgadu from Singapore to go get this statement. From whom? The son of Rosie Senanayake. Nuwan Salgadu was asked at the commission who is Rosie, and he said it was MP and COPE member Rosie Senanayake, and her son was Kanishka Senanayake.
Kanishka Senanayake.
News1st's attempt to contact Rosie Senanayake over the allegation were futile.
Former Mayor of Kotte, Janaka Ranawaka, lodged a complaint with the Commission to investigate allegations of bribery or corruption today against Minister Malik Samaravikrama.
Janaka Ranawaka charges that Minister Malik Samaravikrama has caused damage to state institutions through the misuse of a plot of land in the Valikada area worth 180 million rupees.
The complaint has been lodged against Minister Malik Samaravikrama, the chairman of the UDA and the information officer at the UDA. There is a plot of land close to the Valikada police which belongs to the Kotte Municipal Council. Around 40 purchase of this land has been obtained on a lease by Minister Malik Samaravikrama. There is another 36 perch land behind this plot. 3 years ago, it was valued at 5 million rupees a perch. This plot of land has been cordoned off and he is enjoying it illegally. This plot of land is worth 180 million. We cannot let the law of the land be undermined by people like Minister Malik Samaravikrama. Minister Samaravikrama, if you have legal ownership of this land, come before me. Let's have a debate. I can prove that you are occupying this land by force.
Propaganda activities for the local government elections comes to an end at midnight tonight. A number of political parties organized their final political rallies today. President Maithripala Sirisena attended an SLFP rally in Alawa today.
Within this short period, the SLFP has advanced at a fast pace. We have become stronger. In 2015, when the former president handed over the party to me, this party had already lost. Over the past 3 years, we have taken decisions to develop the country and strengthen the party. We had many opportunities to develop the country over the past few decades. The people in power did not use these opportunities. That is why I call on you to join us in moving forward with a new agenda. There are changes that must be made economically, politically and socially.
The final rally organised by the SLFP for the local government election took place in Kadurela today under the auspices of the President.
The United National Party held a public rally in the Veerapuran Appu grounds in Moratuwa yesterday.
The rally was held under the auspices of UMP leader Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe.
Some thought the United National Party would be afraid to talk about this. But in fact, we had no issue because I gave it 3 dates for it to be debated. We are transparent. We follow a certain policy which does not allow any corruption. If there is anyone with accusations against them, they will be removed from the party. All other parties are pointing fingers at us for talking about corruption. But they have not removed a single person from their party. They've all been given nominations and posts. That is the difference. There was a little lawyer at Temple Trees back then. The Attorney General filed cases based on a phone call this lawyer made. The judiciary acted based on his phone call. He was the one who heard all the cases, hid them and decided on them. Today that era is over. We will launch a program on the 1st of March to make the court system much more efficient, which will enable it to hear case after case. Every village knew while Basel's One Village One Task program was in effect, one thief for one village was created. This is the bunch who are contesting from the flower bud today. We will not delay in serving justice. It may be the bond issue or something else. It may be Aloysius or Mahindran. We will not hesitate to punish them.
Former President Mahinda Rajapaksa paid homage to the Temple of the Sacred Tooth relic in Kandy today. The former president responded to questions posed by the media.
The deputy leader of the United National Party, Minister Sajith Premadasa, held a public meeting in Hambantota yesterday.
The meeting was organized to muster support for the United National Party candidates who are contesting for the Hambantota Municipal Council.
We are committed to protecting the democratic rights and the economic rights of the women. What did our opponents do? We are ashamed to speak of it. The leadership and below destroyed the rights of women.
The propaganda activities of the local government polls will conclude at midnight today. Let's take a listen to what police media spokesperson SP Ruwan Gunasekara had to say regarding the polls.
The propaganda will be prohibited from midnight tonight. Cutouts and posters will not be allowed even at the residence of the candidate. It will completely be prohibited. The Elections Commission has granted permission to hoist one flag on the vehicle that is used by the candidate. From the day nominations were accepted until 6 a.m. today, we have received 567 election-related complaints. 135 suspects have been arrested in connection to these complaints. There are 27 candidates among them.
Welcome back. British Prime Minister Theresa May has appointed Conservative Party MP Ranil Jayawardena as her trade envoy for Sri Lanka. Jayawardana's role as trade envoy will be to support and enhance the development of Britain's trade and investment with Sri Lanka.
Jayawardena said given the shared history and close bonds of friendship between Britain and Sri Lanka and with family ties to Sri Lanka, he is looking forward to serving as the Prime Minister's trade envoy at an exciting time for both countries. The British Prime Minister's trade envoy is scheduled to visit Sri Lanka from the 15th to the 17th of February to meet with senior members of the government and engage with British businesses working in Sri Lanka. Jayawardena, whose father is of Sri Lankan origin, was elected as the Member of Parliament for North East Hampshire in May 2015 and was re-elected in 2017. In Parliament, he is the chair of the All-Party Parliamentary Group on Sri Lanka.
Transparency International Sri Lanka says it has been receiving complaints from across the country in the run-up to the local government elections. In a release, it adds that a majority of the complaints relate to the misuse of public property, which fall under the purview of the central government.
Transparency International Sri Lanka notes that 55% of all complaints referred to its election monitoring arm relate to misuse of fixed and movable assets, human resources and media belonging to the state. A further 15% relate to illegitimate inducements being offered to voters.
Given the fact that it has been years since the dissolution of the local government authorities, the local control over state assets is less. However, what we are seeing is that there is greater involvement of state assets connected to the central government.
The Ministry of Health, Nutrition and Indigenous Medicine signed a collaboration agreement with the Australian High Commission in Sri Lanka today to roll out Monash University's World Mosquito Program. The Australian High Commission made the announcement after the program was given the official go-ahead in Sri Lanka today.
Sri Lanka is the 10th country to become part of the programme, joining Brazil, Colombia, Australia, Indonesia, Vietnam, India, Fiji, Vanuatu and Kiribati. The agreement advances the partnership between Sri Lanka and the World Mosquito Programme in tackling the threat of mosquito-borne viruses such as dengue in Sri Lanka. It comes after Australian Foreign Minister Julia Bishop's announcement last year of the $1 million Australian partnership and funding commitment to help establish WMP in Sri Lanka.
We're seeing the Sri Lankan government is taking a leadership role in being prepared to pursue new approaches, new innovations, new technologies in dealing with the problem. So it's a dual-pronged approach. It's not just the immediate challenges of working with communities to prevent the dengue, but it's the longer-term approach to actually eradicating the disease here in Sri Lanka. We're optimistic that it will be a productive collaboration.
In 2017, the Ministry of Health reported almost 186,000 suspected cases of dengue, with over 41% of those from the Western Province. The programme will be established across 3 sites in the Colombo area over the next 12 months, with the first mosquito releases to take place next year.
At around 11 last morning, a group of police officers, including the OIC of minor crimes from the Kolpiti police, acted in such an unruly manner along a private road leading from Gaul Road to the beach. This private road is solely dedicated for one house only. It is the owner of that house who was manhandled in this manner by the police.
සරුයි සගේ අක්කයි කමිෂනර් හම්බ වෙන CMC එකට යන ගමන් හිටියේ. එතකොට ඒගොල්ලෝ වෙහිකල් එකට නැගලා හිටියේ. ඉතින් මම ඔෆිස් එක ඇතුලේ ඉඳන් කෑ ගන්න සද්දයක් ඇහුණා. ඒ කෑ ගන්න සද්දෙට මම එළියට ඇවිල්ලා දොර ඇරලා බලනකොට OIC මම කියන්නේ එයා වෙන්නේ නැති. එයා කලර් එකකින් අල්ලලා මේව කරා. ඒ කියන්නේ කෑ ගාලා තර්ජනය කරා. එතකොටම තමයි මම එළියට ඇවිල්ලා බැලුවේ. ඉතින් බයට මම ඇතුළට ගිහිල්ලා මැඩම්ව කතා කරගෙන එළියට ආවා.
The owner of the house, his brother and his son were detained by police throughout the night yesterday and were produced in court this morning. Producing a B report in court, police informed the fourth magistrate the suspects obstructed police duty. However, the B report fails to reveal whose duty was obstructed. Although the B report states the OIC of minor crimes at the Kolpiti police had visited and entered the private road leading to the premises based on a complaint received by the police emergency hotline. An officer from the Kolpiti police who was present in court today failed to prove this claim. In response to the magistrate's questions, the police officer said they entered the private road leading to the premises based on a complaint received by the OIC of minor crimes on his mobile phone. Before producing the 3 arrested men in court, they had been taken to the Criminal Investigations Department and an attempt had been made to get their signatures on certain documents. Today, the police recorded statements from 2 women from the private residence who were injured during the incident when they were being treated at the National Hospital in Colombo. It must be noted the individual manhandled by police yesterday on an earlier occasion had filed a case against the police at the Commercial High Court and a trial is ongoing. The case is filed based on a tender irregularity and a separate investigation on the matter is being carried out by the Commission to investigate allegations of bribery or corruption. In addition, the individual victimized in this footage has sought relief from the Court of Arbitration to recover the losses incurred from the tender irregularity. Can the manhandling of the person by a group of officers, including the Minor Crimes OIC of the Kolpiti police, be an attempt to label him as a criminal in the cases he had filed against the police? Minister of Law and Order, this is over to you.
Well, this brings to an end today's edition of Primetime News. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm Mahina Bongzo.
And I'm Shayan Jarampati. Good night and take care.